Make sure we are good to go here. Boom, 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 do, 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 do. All right, we are live. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Brian Martin here with your daily Manchester United news show, and we are live once again. Trying this live thing this time. Usually I pre-record, so we are live this time. Hopefully you all can see me out there. And in fact, I'm going to do a very quick check to make sure you can see me. Let me go to my own page here on YouTube, make sure it shows the little live thing going on, right? And yes, we are live. Awesome, cool. All right, so on your way in, first, if you could do me a favor, if you could please hit that like button and subscribe if you are new. We are on the road to 200 now. We're on the road to 100, and you guys blew through that. So next challenge, road to 200. Here we go. Let's go. Let's get into it. So what happens next? What do we do next? Where do we go from here? Again, everyone's still chewing on that last City result. And that's kind of the problem, right? With only playing once a week, you have a result, everyone sits there and they just like live on it, feast off of it for the next week to come until the next result rolls in. So probably a lot of over analysis going on, to be honest. A lot of, rehashing and milking what's been said. I'm not going to lie. I probably rehashed and milked a few things that I've said. But what do, right? You got to keep the ball rolling. So anyway, getting into it though, and again, as I always say, before anyone jumps on me, I am firmly Amram out. I have not wavered on that since the Grimsby match. If you go back and watch, I said before the match, I said he has to win or it's over for him. I still think that's the case. But let's get into it, right? So currently we are in 14th place in the Premier League. 14th place, Manchester United. Say that in the same sentence. Sounds crazy, sounds ridiculous if you were past a certain age. 14th place, Manchester United. So we are currently on pace for 1 point per game, right? That's not good. Not good. That means we're on track for 38 points, right? That's 4 less points than we had last season. Spurs finished on 38 points, 38, not 38th, 38 points, and they finished 17th, as you know, a spot below us. 38 points is not going to get you higher than 16th place in the Premier League. I looked back like 6, 7 seasons. It's not going to get you higher than 16th place, right? So at the rate we're going, last year was actually a feat. If you actually look at the rate we're going now, we're on pace for 16th or 17th place in the Premier League. And if we fall and do even worse, we are in a official relegation battle. So not good, right? And honestly, like Ruben was mostly backed by the board, right? If I'm being honest, unless he's completely lying to us, he in some interview said that he feels like he, got a good chunk of what he needed. But and then he said, oh, like he wanted to have a whole preseason, and he thought we weren't ready for Europe, and he needed more time on the training pitch, between games, and I'm not seeing the results of that, right? I'm not even seeing like an inkling of improvement, really. I mean, yes, people are going to throw stats, but oh, we have most touches in the opposition box, yada yada yada. I mean, yes, there are systems and ways of playing that can get you more touches in the opposition box and pad your stats, but at the end of the day, the only stat that matters is those numbers in the win column, and we don't have enough of that. So I mean, stats are great, right? But they're not showing the eye test, right? I guess is what I'm trying to say. The eye test is they are not passing the eye test. They are not passing the eye test. If you watch us play, sure, touches in the box, sure, crosses, sure, whatever other positive stat you want to throw out there. But if you watch us play, we just aren't. You don't see where we're improving, really. You don't see where we look like we're going to score, right? If I'm being honest. Like I said, our counterattack, it just looks kind of haphazard. Our midfield is so isolated. Even if you had a midfielder in there with legs, I feel like they'd be so isolated. They'd have to be 110% on point every single match, and nobody plays at that level. Like, I'm sorry, not even Messi, Ronaldo, Pele, Maradona, whoever else you're going to throw out there, they are not 110% every single match, right? So to be relying on a midfielder to be that good consistently is, I think, a bit crazy. You got to build in, room for slack, right? Because people are people, players are humans, right? So I don't know. I don't have faith in the system. I want to see us try like a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 or even a classic 4-4-2, something different, right? Just see something different. And even, I tell you what, if Ruben could show me something different, I might be okay. I might be like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna walk back a little bit on my Ruben out or Amram out stance, right? If he was willing to try something different, to get something different and better out of the players, I would walk back my stance a bit. But he's being so stubborn, and it's like you can't sacrifice the season, you can't sacrifice the results because you were so stubborn and stuck in your way of playing. That's what I'm trying to say, right? It's nothing personal against Amram, it's nothing anything like that. It's just show some flexibility, show some game management, show some, oh, okay, that's not working, let me try this instead. But to keep trying to do the same thing over and over and over and getting the same results, well, I mean, isn't that the definition of crazy, right? Or insanity, whatever people say. So yeah, like try something different. Try something different. See what you get. And you know what? Like you might find that okay, I can play my style, but maybe with this tweak or that tweak, right? But I'm not seeing any kind of tweaks from this guy, and that's what's worrying, right? And again, that's what's upsetting as a fan because you feel like he's kind of riding off the season a bit just to almost prove a point in a way, right? And again, I know there's talk about this 12 million pound payout or whatever. Um, that we'd have to fork over to Amram if he were to be sacked in his first year. So I don't know, maybe that's what's going on. Maybe he's just kind of like, giving us a big middle finger to our faces until, his year is up, then he'll walk or we'll sack him or something. I don't know. I don't know. But like, I don't understand the stubbornness. Like that's what I don't get. I don't understand the stubbornness at all. That's just bizarre to me. Um, anyway, you know, oh yeah, something else I saw. I was looking at my notes there. Sorry. So someone said, I can't remember where it was, if it was on Twitter or if it was on a report or an article I read, but someone said we didn't need Cunha. I'm gonna let that line sit for a minute, as Drake or one of the rappers would say, right? I'm gonna let that line breathe for a minute. Someone said we didn't need Cunha. And maybe that comes off of some of the performances that we've seen between Cunha and Mbeumo, because again, we brought them in together as like big summer signings, right? So they're always going to be forever linked in that way and forever compared. Um, from the eye test, I feel like Mbeumo has been the better signing of the two. Um, I feel like Cunha, I don't know that he's a starter right now. I don't know that he's a starter right now. I'd rather see Bruno back in that 10 position next to Mbeumo or Ahmad up there. And then maybe in midfield we go with like Casemiro and I don't know. I hate to say it, but Kobe Manu or someone else, maybe even Casemiro and Agarte. I don't know. I don't know. I know that might sound crazy, but just I don't know. I don't know that. I'm trying to find the words. Like I don't know that is the right thing. Having Cunha there, and I know you're gonna say, "Oh, it's too soon." You're slacking him off. And like I'm not saying he's a bad player at all. I don't know if we needed both of them. And I know hindsight's 2020 because I was all excited that we got both of them too. So like I'm not even gonna sit here and pretend like I was saying this the whole time. I'm just now saying this. So please understand that. But in hindsight, it's like maybe we should have spent that money on a midfielder instead. Unless Cunha can play there and he's gonna surprise us all. Maybe we should have spent that money there on a midfielder. And so we got Mbeumo and then, Bruno in the 10 and then a midfielder who has the legs to get about next to a Casemiro or Ugarte or even Menu, right? But we're not there now. We've got what we got, so we have to try and make it work, which goes back to Amram, right? Like tweak your system, try something different. Just try it. Just try it. You might be surprised. We all might be surprised. I would love to be pleasantly surprised, right? I would love for him to tweak his system and we get better results. And then I happily eat my words of saying Amram out and I will own up to being wrong. Absolutely. No shame in that. Anyway, I'm not going to keep going on that. What I will say is, how much time does Amram have left, right? That's a question that's been going around. Um, Conflicting reports. Some say these next 3 games are his final run, um, or his final, assessment period. Others are saying he's fully backed by the board for forever and ever and ever, right? So I don't know. I can't imagine that the board is sitting there just thrilled with the results, right? Um, I can't imagine that they are. Maybe he only does have 3 games left, but the board hasn't communicated that to him, and so um, they're being hush hush because again they don't want to pay him that 12 million pounds, and they want to keep him going and trying, at least trying for decent results until his year is up. Then they're going to sack him and bring in someone else. I mean, I don't know. If I'm on that board and I'm sitting there and I'm in my suit and tie and, with my papers in front of me and my analysis and reports and, having seen what I've seen, I would think, okay, we've given you money, we've given you time, um, you know, we've given you, you know, the resources. We backed you. You've had your preseason. We're out of Europe, although that hurts us financially. You're getting more time on the training pitch is what you said you needed. And I haven't seen any improvement, right? So in my mind, I'd be saying, yeah, these next 3 games, that's all you got. If I don't see any kind of improvement in the next 3 games, now we're looking at replacements. I mean, and for those who don't know, the next 3 games are Chelsea at the weekend, then Brentford, then Sunderland. Um, you know, 2 winnable games to me in Brentford and Sunderland. Chelsea might be a challenge, right? They tried to go toe to toe at Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich obviously won. But Chelsea had good spells in that match, right? Better spells than I've seen us have in the longest time. So I don't know that we get any kind of result out of Chelsea. I know before I was optimistic and I was saying I think we could go there and get a draw, but Chelsea seemed to have picked up their play a bit, unlike ourselves. And so I think that we lose to Chelsea. So I'm kind of writing that one off. But Brentford and Sunderland, we have to win, and Amram has to win to save his job. If we go to Brentford and Sunderland and we lose, I would say heaven help you, Ruben Amram, because yeah, not good. Not good. Even if we beat Chelsea and then lose to Brentford and Sunderland, I'd still say, like, what the heck, man? Like, that's not good enough because, you could say the Chelsea win was a fluke. Brentford and Sunderland, like, should be beating them every day of the week. Um, Now, look, I said it yesterday, I'll say it again today. If Amram were to get the sack, my guy would be Marco Silva of Fulham. He is Premier League proven. He's done a great job at Fulham. I think if he had a bigger budget, he'd do even better. Always there's the question of how does he play, how does he manage big attitudes, right? That's one thing that we've seen managers come from smaller clubs to bigger clubs and struggle with. I think that's what happened to Graham Potter when he went from Brighton to Chelsea. I think he struggled with the attitudes and the bigger stars because he was doing wonders at Brighton. He was like the next guy, and then suddenly went to Chelsea, and it all fell apart. So you know that's always a challenge, right? You can't guarantee that, but I don't know. Something about Marco Silva just seems like he might be the guy that could take us where we want to go. So I would I would like to see him in place if Ruben Amorim doesn't work out. Other names that have been put out there are Gareth Southgate, Mauricio Pochettino, who's currently coaching my U.S. national team, um, or my national team, the U.S. national team, I should say. Xavi, Areola, and Michael Carrick. I think Carrick, didn't he do all right in his 2 game caretaker spell? I think he did all right there. But honestly, I mean, look, if you bring Southgate in, like I said before, Harry Maguire is going back into that starting lineup for sure. Probably next to Delict. Um, Poch, I don't know. I think he's deep in with the U.S. men's national team. I mean, that's a whole nother drama over there, which I kind of cover a bit on my other channel, Football with Brian Martin, Brian Martin Football. That's my general football channel. Yeah, that's a whole nother soap opera with the U.S. men's national team. Just another institution where I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, I played in it a bit growing up, national team set up in camps and whatnot, like in regionals and whatnot. I don't get it. Anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that here. This is my Manchester United channel, so let me bring it back to that. Xavi, I think could do all right, but again, he's going to need a midfielder with legs. Areola, I think he'd do a solid job too. But again, my guy is Marco Silva. Um, so that's what I think. And honestly, like, just moving on from that and what I just said, well, bringing forward what I just said. with needing a midfielder with legs, right? So I know we had all this talk about this record revenue and all that good stuff. And, to me, that means there's money to spend in either January or summer. And so obviously that kind of brings me into transfer speculation. Now, I think to supplement that cash, as I've been saying, I would offer up Ugarte plus cash. That's what I would do. I would say Ugarte plus cash to get a midfield deal across. And then maybe we use the money to sign some other midfielder, right? So maybe we can get two. Maybe we can get two midfielders. We do some, a bunch of money plus Ugarte, and for one of those deals. Um, just some quick side news on midfielders or midfielders. I say number 10, but Kobe Manu. I know before I was saying that Newcastle was in for him, but apparently Real Madrid and even Manchester City are looking at him. Apparently Pep is an admirer of Kobe Manu. That could be something he said in passing, or that could be some legs to it. I would love to know if Pep had Manu, where he would play him, if he thinks he's a center mid, or if he, like me, thinks that, he is a 10 or even a false 9, potentially. So anyway, I don't know. I saw that in passing, so I'm not going to dwell on that. It may not have, legs, but reporting it anyway, right? Because it was a headline. Um, in terms of just, transfer business, since we're in that vein of thought, Casemiro contract ends next summer, 2026. There's talk of an extension. Um, I don't know if I do it. I think his legs are gone. He's having to dive into tackles. I think when we have possession, he's good. He's great. But as soon as the game opens up, he's not the guy. So, I mean, if anything, I feel like he becomes more of like an attacking midfielder, and someone next to him with legs does the running. That maybe could work. And again, yeah, and that's the thing. It's a thought, right? If we got a midfielder with legs, maybe we keep Casemiro for another season beyond 2026 and let him be more of like an attacking midfielder. Because I mean, he does orchestrate decently well, right? Um, to me anyway. Maybe we get midfielder next to him who can run, and that way we can have some rotation, right? Maybe in like the FA Cup and EFL Cup and less challenging games, we have Casemiro kind of running point, if you will, to use an American basketball term, as our attacking mid, and then we have someone next to him with legs like a Baleba or whoever, um, to do the dirty work. But yeah, Bruno also, right? I've been saying it. I think he potentially goes next summer, especially if we have another disappointing season. If I were him, I'd move on. Um, and speaking of Bruno, so there was something that was said um, earlier today. It was a question, and you know what? Let me see if I can get that up on the screen. Actually, let me see if I can find that really quickly. It was on Twitter, and it was a comment that was made that I responded to. Let me see if I can find it. Is it here? Is this it? Is this it? All right, here it is. Sorry, let me drag that so it's not so huge on the screen there. Then I'll make it go away. So yeah, so uh I think the comment was from, or the question was from Dev, Dev Football. Follow him if you don't. And he says, what's a hot take about Manchester United that has you, I guess, surrounded by others with knives to your neck, right? So, Big Four president, he said, Bruno is a blessing and a curse. He's the reason our new signings always struggle. So, I responded to Big Four president's comment, and I said, I think his talent is undeniable in the 10 role, but I think his attitude may be causing more issues than we think. Um, Remember, Bruno is a guy that tends to shout at others, even if he's made the mistake. Not great for a teammate to behave that way, let alone a captain. So I stick by that. I've said that before. I've not said it a bunch because, I try not to get player FC or anti-player FC or whatever you want to call it these days. Um, but that's my thing with Bruno, right? Is I feel like he is divisive again because, like I said, he's a talent. He's a great talent at 10. I think he's great at 10. I think he needs to be in a position where he can kind of try those crafty little things, and when they come off, they're great, and take his long shots and whatnot. Um, but his attitude, I think, is divisive, right? I mean, think back to when you've played, right? There was that guy or girl who was pretty good, but they always kind of blamed everyone else around them for their mistakes. They didn't like put their hand up and say, "Oh, my bad for that pass," or I'll get you next time kind of thing, right? Because that's a little more reassuring, right? If like someone who's on your team who's really talented, or even your captain, and they know when to apologize for their mistake and to say, "Oh, that's on me," right? That instills more confidence in you as a teammate. It makes you feel more comfortable playing with them. But if that person's always like shouting at you or others for their mistake, you're like, "What are you doing? Like, you played that ball out of bounds. You hit that bad pass. You made that bad run, or you made that mistake. Why are you putting it on me or others?" And you kind of scratch your head at that. And then, especially if they're a captain, you're like, "Well, what do I say?" They're captain. They've got the manager's ear. You know, next, I might be riding the bench just because I said something, I spoke out against the captain. So I don't know. So yeah, I don't know, mixed emotions on that one. But let me get it off the screen though, so it's not taking up too much space over here. Um, so yeah, I mean, honestly, other signings that we might bring into midfield is Adam Morton, Angelo Stiller, Elliot Anderson, Conor Gallagher, of course, Carlos Baleba, who I think between Gallagher and Baleba, I think we do one of them in January and one in summer. It'd be great if we did both in January. But I think we do one in January, one in summer. But then the surprise that I heard over the past day or so was one Ruben Neves, who is currently at Al Hilal. As you remember, he's was a Wolves player. He's 28 now, so he's in his prime still. And I don't know how much we could do that deal for if we were to go in for Neves. I mean, we know that the Saudi Pro League, which is where Al Hilal plays, we know that they come in with big money for players, but I don't know much about how they sell. If money's not an issue to them, maybe we get players from them on the cheap. Maybe we get a Ruben Neves on the cheap, relatively speaking, from an Al Hilal, right? That's what I would think if money's not an issue to them, or they might be like staunch business people, and they're like, look, we're gonna try and even profit off of this guy. I don't know. I'd watch this space on that one. That'd be interesting, and just in general, just to see how the Saudi Pro League sells players, right? Be curious about that. I know Aymeric Laporte, I think, left. I don't know how much he left for, but he was always unsettled there in the Saudi Pro League. Anyway, let me wrap this up. I've been rambling for a bit here. So looking ahead, obviously we got the Chelsea match on September 20th. They are currently 5th in the table. Now I will tell you this: if the guys don't show fight against Chelsea, I think that they've soured officially on Amorim. I think that that would be them kind of downing tools and speaking very clearly and loudly, to borrow Amorim's words. Because yeah, I mean, look, Chelsea, they're not like our biggest historic rival, but they're always, a top club. I would say a top club like us, but we're clearly not a top club anymore. We're a massive club in terms of, fame and whatnot and history, but like we're not a top club right now in terms of playing ability. But nevertheless, I mean, it's still Chelsea, right? Like a historic top six rival, if you will, top four rival. You would think that the players would go out there and knowing that history and put up some fight. So if they go out there and they just kind of kick the ball about, don't really show much edge to them, then I would say that the players have officially soured on Amorim, and either they're going to go, which I doubt because a lot of them were just recently brought in, or not a lot, well, a decent number recently brought in, relatively speaking, or Amorim goes. And, if anything, we know what player power does around here at Manchester United. So I would think that Amorim would go. So again, I would watch that closely. I would watch that closely this weekend to see the players' attitudes, if they really put out and go after Chelsea, or if they seem to kind of, down tools, right? To borrow the British slang there. After that, we've got Brentford on the 27th of September, and then we've got Sunderland October 4th. They are seventh in the table. Again, I think that those three games decide Amorim's fate. As I've said, I'm Amorim out. I've been Amorim out since the Grimsby match, since the Grimsby match. Before I said if we have a poor showing or lose, then I'm Amorim out. So since that time, I've been Amorim out. I think these next three games seal his fate one way or the other. Very quickly on injuries, Cunha, he was injured against Burnley. It was his hamstring. There are rumors that he may be back for the Chelsea match, which would be good to have him back. I know what I said earlier about him as a player, but I mean, we need everyone we can get, right? So hopefully comes back. And again, you don't want to see anybody hurt, so wish him a speedy recovery. Mason Mount, not so sure. Again, I'm worried about this, right? I'm worried about this whole Mount injury thing because, I mean, we had him for a bit, back and healthy, fit and firing. And we saw what he brought, right? He brought good pressing energy. And yeah, I mean, him being hurt again and it's kind of gone quiet under wraps. Like, I hope this is not a long-term thing. If this is, then it's time for him to be sold. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you know, passionate player, good on his day when he's fit. But if he can't stay fit, gotta go. Gotta go. Dallo, haven't heard any update on that, so not sure what's going on there. No suspensions to deal with, so we should have, for the most part, a full squad barring those injuries, and of course, Lisandro Martinez, who's injured, who should be back in October, so a few weeks from now. Very quickly on the women's front, so the women have a big match today. They host Brand, who they lost to in the first of a two-leg playoff, to get into the league phase of the Women's Champions League. The women have been smashing it in the Premier League. They looked good in their loss to Brand. It was 1-0. It wasn't like it was a blowout. It wasn't like we looked bad. I feel like that could have gone either way, to be honest. So I say that we beat Brand today. I'm calling a win. I think it will be a comfortable win for the ladies today. So please go support them. I'm going to be watching that game. I might do a halftime show on that one. I might do a post match. Haven't quite decided yet. What I am going to do though, if you look on what side I'm looking at, this side over here, on my other channel, Football with Brian Martin Football, I will be doing a live halftime show for the Napoli Manchester City match. That's at 3 p.m. Eastern time. That would be what, noon Pacific time if you're on the West Coast of the United States. Check that one out. I think it's gonna be a good match. I think Napoli gets something out of this match. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. Man City might go out there and smash Napoli, but I think Napoli gets something out of this. It might be a draw, it might be a win, but I think they get something out of this Manchester City tie. So don't miss my live halftime show for that match. I'll probably do a post-match discussion as well. Haven't decided on that yet. So yeah. Anyway, post-match for the Chelsea match coming up this weekend as well, so don't miss that. Of course, I'll do a live halftime show and a post-match discussion and analysis for the Chelsea match. On your way out, please like, share, and subscribe. And I appreciate your time, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.